Right. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be joined by everyone. I'll give us just a couple of seconds for people to join for it to kind of get ready, but super excited that we get to be doing this today. This is going to be a really great opportunity for us to have a conversation. I think for me, this is a great opportunity for me to learn a lot from all of you. I think that this combination of Reach Out to All, and of course I got to host, and I'm representing BeTheChange.Media network. I think that we have so many different issues that we're passionate about and different ways that we're trying to make change and different approaches to social action. So I think this is going to be incredible to learn from each other and have a great conversation. I wanted to remind everyone that's watching live, if you have questions, please use the chat because we will have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. I'll keep my eyes on that, and then we can take some questions at the end. But I'm going to dive into a quick intro of the organizations that I just mentioned. I'll start with Reach Out to All, and then we'll move on to FlippGen, and then a little bit about Be the Change Media Network. But I think the best part is going to be hearing from Miriam, Patty, and Troy. So I want to go through this bit quickly. So Reach Out to All is about amplifying young people's voices and giving them space to lead, create, and make an impact, whether it's through youth-led workshops, events, or projects. Reach Out to All is all about believing in young people's ideas, voices, and power to create change. So there are workshops, youth-led projects, events, mentoring, and volunteering opportunities through Reach Out to All, as well as enrichment trips. And I've been to a Reach Out to All event, incredible. So definitely just an amazing organization doing great work. FlippGen is a youth-led digital well-being movement aimed at improving the next generation's relationship with technology and fostering healthier digital habits. There are 18 incredible digital rebels, and we're joined by a few today who are all aged between 14 and 25 years old, all from different backgrounds and from all over the country who volunteer to lead FlippGen's work. The three pillars of FlippGen are campaigning, content, and community. And FlippGen feels very passionately about educating and empowering the next generation. Recent work from FlippGen, some highlights include a social media campaign, Who Gives a Flip, during Screen Free Week, which I saw a bunch of the digital rebels posting about, which is incredible. Writing various blog posts about topical issues and getting out on the streets with the Mixed Charity to interview people about their digital habits, which Patty, I know that you were a part of, which I would love to hear a little bit about. It's very exciting. FlippGen's also going to be launching a podcast series over the summer called Flip the Script with guests including Jess Butcher, MBE, Dr. Caitlin Rager, is that right? Adele Walton, and so many more. I'm sure I'm so excited to hopefully be a part of the podcast and, of course, to listen when it comes out. But we're in the process of FlippGen is also in the process of launching an education toolkit called Digital Intelligence, which I love, in association with the National Youth Agency, which covers a wide range of topics about how to improve your digital well-being, how social media works, and all the way to AI chatbots, which, of course, is a very timely topic that everybody's talking about right now. As far as Be the Change Media Network, I am the founding director of the network. We are the only youth-led podcast network in the world, and our mission is all about sharing young people's voices and providing them with the training, community, and platforms to create podcasts, but also other forms of digital content. So we believe that young people are the experts of our own lived experience, and often traditional media platforms misrepresent or underrepresent young people's voices. So we're creating our own platforms to share our own stories. We're currently a network of 32 young creators across 7 countries, producing 14 podcasts with our most recent one just launching today, which is very exciting. And all of the content we produce has a focus on social action. So I think lots of conversations like this one that we're going to have today. And so I'm super thrilled to be able to contribute to this space through the hosting and doing a little bit of what I usually do with my podcast. It's going to be a great conversation, but I'm going to turn it over to all of you now. I am going to ask each of you to give a quick intro as to your name, background, and your role in FlippGen, Reach Out to All, and or Be the Change Media Network. So give a little overview about some of the work that you've done. And then my question for each of you, and I can remind you of this when it gets to your turn, but one digital skill or value that you believe is essential for young people to have today. So what is that one digital skill or value? Does anybody really want to go first? Otherwise, I can call somebody out. Troy, what about you? Go for it.
Hi everyone, I am Joy, and I'm 22 years old, and And I'm very much an activist. I'm advocating for send and youth voice and tackling other issues. And my journey came years back, 2023. When I was at my special needs college, I really wanted to make a difference. So I worked with my local council and I created because I think like a participation group where we literally are connected with each other, talk to other young people, and it made me even passionate to do what I'm doing today. And I'm part of ReachOut2All as a youth advisor, and as well as on a digital rebel for FlippGen, and also I'm the Forgotten Generation podcast host on BeTheChange.Media network. And also, I think also like on the, like I think like something like on a value for me is just yeah I think the value on that is like power. Yeah, but I've been thinking about it a lot today. And power, I think, for us young people to also like grow and really be leaders in like the digital world and also share a platform and create that change there as well.
I love that. I think that was so well said. And yeah, you're connected with all three organizations, which is great. I love that. Patty, do you want to go for it next?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Paddy. I'm a mental health campaigner and a digital rebel with FlippGen, and I do campaigning kind of on a national scale around with Young Minds and Mind and other charities around getting policy change and reducing the stigma and stereotypes around mental health and mental ill health, and also more local campaigning. I'm campaigning for my local community hub to be turned into an early intervention support hub, and then I'm also campaign manager at a new non-profit called the Hero Project, which is aimed at mentoring and helping young people realize that they are the hero of their own story. And I'd probably say one value for like digital world, I would say, or skill, I'd say critical thinking. And there's so much misinformation and so much kind of so many fake things on social media and in general on kind of the internet now, and I think it's really important that young people think about what they're reading and learn to question it.
I think that was very, very well said. And I also was lucky enough to have you as a guest on my podcast. So that's also going to be coming out soon. So I know a little bit about your story as well, Patty, and it's incredible. Yeah, last but not least, can you tell your story a bit, and one digital skill or value that you believe is essential for young people to have today?
So, hi everyone, my name is Mariam. I'm a 20-year-old psychology student studying at Royal Holloway. I'm also an artist and an older sister, and I've been involved with social change and volunteering for a couple of years now, and I'm currently working as a co-researcher with The Good Side, which is an organization that tackles contemporary youth issues, and currently it's focusing on men's mental health, young men's mental health. And I'm also a digital rebel, which is what we call our ambassadors with FlippGen. And I'd say a skill, I agree a little bit with Patty. I would have said being able to discriminate between false news and misinformation and stuff that we read on articles, but also learning to recognize when social media becomes antisocial or maladaptive. And it's just a smart way to monitor screen time and your content consumption.
I think that there is so much that I'm excited to learn about just listening to you all do your intros. I think with so many different experiences and the way that the work that you're all doing, but I think connected through this idea of the digital world, I think that's a big thing that we can start with here is just explaining what that is. What do you mean when you're talking about digital world and when you're talking about digital skills? Does anybody want to start off, just kick us off by giving a quick explanation? Mostly, I think for me, I would love to know more about the digital world and what that means and kind of what that concept is to all of you. Does anybody want to kick us off?
I'm happy to kind of explain. I think the digital world is quite a complex kind of topic because what springs to mind, I think for a lot of people, including myself, is kind of social media. But I almost think that's kind of, it's weird to say, but a bit outdated because there's so many different forms of the digital things that young people are now interacting with. So for me, digital world is just anything on the internet, on technology that you interact with. So anything from social media, apps on the phone, AI chatbots, which I think is kind of a new, really kind of concerning feature of the new digital world. But yeah, anything that you can encounter kind of on a screen. That's what digital world is to me.
I think that makes so much sense. Anything to add there, Miriam, Troy? I think that was a wonderful definition but anything to add? I think oh yeah, go for it, Miriam.
No, just very quickly, like, I think it's also sort of an identity building platform where it's not just social media as we call it, but it's also to thrive and enrich your skills and reach out to other opportunities that you might not otherwise get by word of mouth. So we think of it sort of as an extension to your arm, maybe. I would use that metaphor. So you definitely do get like a lot more reach with like the digital world than just being in real life. So I think it would be it can be positive, but good and bad, but we'll definitely like explore that in the future with our questions.
Yeah, that was the perfect segue, actually, Miriam. So thank you. I think that's really the next thing that I would love to chat about. I think I would love to start off by talking about the challenges that young people might be facing in the digital world. And then with some of those challenges, I know a lot of this is a double-edged sword as far as the good, but also the bad. So I feel like we can kind of answer both some of the challenges that young people are facing, but maybe also some of the opportunities, which you kind of alluded to there, Miriam. Miriam, do you want to start us off with a couple of those challenges, or Patty, Troy, either of you?
Yeah, I can start off. So I think in the last couple decades, young people are struggling a lot with isolation online, which is interesting because we've had so many advancements that have allowed us to connect and like access and share. And yet we are probably arguably the most isolated generation to date. And I think that like roughly 8 billion people on this earth, and we've got a large percentage of them on the internet, have an account or surf the internet. Could be either. And a majority demographic of those is young people. And yet that is something that is very prominent. And I would say it raises the question that, you know, why is it that young people struggle to connect online, even though we're probably the most digitally native? And I think it's mainly the isolation, but also the mental health issues, because with depression and anxiety, like, they've been on the rise since maybe the past 20 years with social media. And there's a lot of articles that talk about how there's a connection between a lot of social media usage and mental health. And they both, like with anxiety and depression, for instance, they both share the symptom of being like alienated from your peers and your community. So with that, you'd have to ask as well, what is it that's happening online that's causing that? And I think within that, you've got cyberbullying and harmful content that we should be more aware of, which I think young people are like struggling with online.
Yeah, I think that was a great way to kick us off. I think that you addressed a lot of challenges there and kind of in a lot of different ways. Patty or Troy, do you want to add on to that? Add different points? What are your thoughts?
Okay. I think I'll also I'll touch on about that. I think also like antisocial behaviour also happens in social media, where there's so much like and bad stuff that goes on, and it also does affect that young person's mental health because it like and they see something online and they think actually what's going on here, like, and is this something that's okay and is something that is right? And I think there's a lot of things that goes on with like talking to people that you don't know on social media as well. And it can become something actually quite dangerous where you're actually like talking to the wrong crowd, where it could be a very like on a big like on a big problem as well. And I think also like fitting in and exactly like loneliness as well, like because of like on exactly what we touched on, because a lot of young people feel very lonely that they can't talk to different people. They feel like very much alert. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things in social media that is very much not good. That really needs to be like on a because I think like on addressed and accounted for.
Yeah, those are great points too. I think we'll also talk about, maybe some of the ways that we can drive change. And so I think that's definitely coming, Troy, as well. Patty, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Troy and Miriam said. I think one of the real things that's not spoken about is youth loneliness, where you're more likely to be lonely. There's a higher percentage of loneliness amongst young people than older people, which is completely against the rhetoric and the kind of belief of society. And I think we've got to look at why that is, because we're more connected than we've ever been before. We can reach hundreds of people at the touch of a few buttons, yet more people are struggling with loneliness now when we've grown up in this world. So I think it's really important to kind of understand. And I think a lot of that comes from a kind of comparison culture that's been allowed to appear. And I think it's kind of linked to the critical thinking, because social media is very good for people posting. People very rarely post negative aspects of their life on social media. So if you're struggling, you just see the other people posting their positive bits. They're posting their highlight reels while you seem to be going through your darkest stages. It can be very difficult to in that place to kind of not compare yourself. But I think, yeah, it's one of the real difficulties with um with social media and media as a whole, is that you only see, or often only see, highlight reels, and you don't see all the times in between where people are also struggling and people are also going through things. It's just not apparent on social media, and it's the way algorithms work and the way social media works. It's easy to get drawn into this idea that everybody's living a perfect life and everybody's got friends and always out. But actually, the reality is very different to that.
I think that that is so true. And I do think that highlight reel idea is something that I feel like a lot of us have heard, but it's hard to actually internalize it. Like you know that, but I think it's when you're online and when you're using social media so much and other aspects of the digital world too, I think it's, not necessarily just social media. It's also, I think people using, even kind of AI and stuff, I think that it kind of skews our perception as to like what is real and what is expected of us sometimes. And I think that it can be really concerning. So I love that you brought that point up. Um, I think that another aspect of this, which is a little bit different as far as kind of the challenges that we're facing in our daily life or maybe our social lives, but I think also the political side of the digital world also makes me really nervous as young people existing in political systems. This is kind of my own passion project, so I'm kind of answering here as well. But I think that it's concerning for us as young people becoming voters and participating in democracies around the country when we have misinformation and disinformation, which you touched on, Miriam, and not knowing how to kind of comb through that. And I think that that's just such a big challenge that we need to keep talking about and keep educating ourselves. But I do think that's also something that just concerns me so much. So to echo you, Miriam, my next question, which I guess is kind of changing the tone a little bit, but what does digital resilience mean to all of you? I think that this is, moving us in the direction of how can we make change? How can we present solutions to this? But what does it mean to be digitally resilient? Any thoughts on that? Does anybody want to kick us off?
I'm happy to. I think digital resilience for me is kind of being able to stay true to yourself and stay authentic and stick to your kind of principles, no matter what social media and what other forms of digital life throw at you. Kind of knowing who you are and not letting that be swayed by your experiences. For me, yeah, that kind of encapsulates what digital resilience is.
I agree. I had a sort of a similar point to you, and I think when it comes to digital resilience, it is made up of two parts, in my opinion. It comes from both critical thinking and emotional regulation, because when we think of maybe critical thinking, we think of like media literacy and how to understand like fake news and stuff, but also being able to take like ethical and safe like interpretations of media that we consume. Whereas with emotional regulation, it's more about like how to handle digital stress for both good and bad. So you might have negative feedback on a post on one hand, but also you might also want to manage like learning how to manage like likes and attentions on your post. So I think digital resilience can be multifaceted in that way.
Anything to add, Troy? Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And also for me, and what I think about like a digital and resilience is your values and your morals, and also like and being who you are, and just not faking things, like and be true and be authentic and be raw and be honest. But I think also being aware of what's right and wrong online, and a way about it and a way to navigate it.
I do think that those are all really, really good points. I guess I'll also kind of pose another question, but what do you think are the challenges that people are facing when it comes to like being authentic and being your true selves online? I guess kind of this is also a follow-up to your original point, Patty, that you were making. What are kind of why do we see these highlight reels? Why are we existing that way? I know that's a hard question because it's probably a little bit different for everyone, but what are those challenges when it comes to being authentic and creating authentic content? Why are we kind of struggling to do that, do you guys think? It can be, young people, it can be like our generation or just a wider comment, but I'd just love to pick your brains a little bit about that.
I think for me, there's a few things. I think it's a vicious cycle because um all you see online is positivity, so it's like you have to kind of live up to that. And if everybody has to live up to this positivity, then it just creates an atmosphere of pure positivity. So it's very hard to break. And also, I think I think the example kind of being set sometimes through the news cycle and through what young people see on social media and in like traditional forms of media. Well, for example, yesterday with Rachel Reeves, there's a lot of people kind of attacking her for doing something that a lot of people do on a daily, like do not a daily basis, but a lot of people have tried at work. But the fact that on social media is kind of a pile on when any kind of negativity or somebody disagrees or somebody kind of doesn't like what you've posted it's quite easy to have a pile on and to get a negative reception. So I think people are nervous to put themselves out there, like rightfully so, because all you see now on social media and on kind of online media is all this negativity around people who show a weakness and show that their life isn't perfect. I think it's hard to get the confidence to show that side of it.
Yeah, I do think that that is very true, and I think it's a huge confidence piece, and I think it's not something that we're seeing all the time, and I think at least maybe because I'm in a little bit of an activist bubble, I think that I follow a lot of change makers and I follow a lot of people who are trying to push the stigma and trying to push out of that box. Like you, Patty, actually. You come to mind when I'm thinking about that, but people who are trying to change that narrative. I think at least in my circles, it feels like it's getting better, but that might also just be the followers that I've surrounded myself with. And I think there's a lot more work to do. So I appreciate you talking about that. I think that's important. So I think this also kind of goes along with that last question and that last answer that you just gave, Patty. But what support systems or platforms have helped you all thrive online? And how did you find those spaces? I think that second part of the question might be kind of the hard bit as well for people. They might want to, find communities and they might want to find people who can support them, but actually finding those spaces. I'd love to hear what those platforms are and then how you got connected with them. Does anybody want to kick us off?
Yeah. So one of my earlier memories is that the school's pastoral team would always have talks about mental health support platforms. Kooth and Good Samaritans come to mind, in which these were like 24/7 accessible online help as an alternative for people who might not be able to afford or get help immediately offline. But even though they were really conventional and effective tools, I personally felt discouraged from using them because there was like this like classroom habit of diluting mental health awareness. Something like acknowledging that you're not feeling okay could rule you out from people more than if you had just kept quiet about it. So instead of that, I turned to less systematic apps. So Finch was this app that I was introduced to by a friend. And essentially you're taking care of like this digital pet bird. And the way that you take care of it is by organizing and committing to certain tasks. So something is all like tidying up your room, one thing in your room you tidy up, or maybe improving your sleep quality over several weeks. But it would still encourage you to grow alongside your pet Finch with rewards. So I always found that like a really clever app because it would be curated to your needs and it would move away from that rigid system of how support is supposed to look like. I also really struggled taking initiative online since it was easy to open up like Instagram and see like the content just comes to you. You just keep scrolling, it's fine. Like it's basically not curated to you, you just get it. When instead I should be using my phone to connect and try and like enrich my skills. So say like to remedy that, I had downloaded a screen time app, so it will block the social media after I've hit my daily limit. And so that combined with the Finch app, it really helped me become more mindful of what I consumed online, as well as how to level out my phone usage and be more present in the outside world. So yeah.
I love that. I've never heard of that app before, but it sounds wonderful. I think that's such a good resource to share with everyone. Troy, Patty, what support systems or platforms have helped both of you?
Okay, go.
Go for it, Troy.
I think what supported me was a Brain in Hand app. It was an app for autistic people to like deal with their emotions and just in life and just like working out things to help them in like also like I did social media as well, and it really helped me think about things logically and a critical thinking of things, and to really like balance what I'm looking at social media, like Like, and is it okay to have some breaks in this? And is it okay to look at social media here and there? Because I felt like I was always on social media all the time, looking at different things, and I just needed to like unstop for a bit. And also, because I think also what helped me was like a community groups, like youth clubs, really helped me to know exactly what to do in social media and being online and surrounding myself in the community of that. And also pastoral support as well, that one-to-ones in schools, I think also helped as well. So like I talked to the person who can help me and going through something and to really just like, yeah, to really like make me feel better inside.
I love that. I think those are all wonderful supports, and I love how these are specific resources too. I think that that's amazing. These apps that you have both found, that's incredible. Patty, anything to add?
Yeah, I think kind of very similar to what Miriam and Tro said. I think that it's great to see now that there are these kind of apps and people are adapting to this world. Like we're living in a digital world now, and I think that the best way to kind of deal with it, I don't think we're never going to be able to put it all away. We're never going to be able to transform into a world without kind of a digital aspect. So I think it's really important that we kind of find things online um, that do help our well-being and help our digital well-being. And I think for me, it's kind of seeing the positive aspects of social media, seeing people who are kind of authentic and realizing that this isn't something with my mental health that I'm going through alone. I think I have OCD and I've learned so much from other people around OCD, things that I didn't even realize were to do with my own OCD. And I think I've heard a lot of other people who have been through similar. You learn so much, and you can talk to people from up and down the country, up and down the world, who have similar experiences. That it's very difficult to find that connection with people in the real world at school. I didn't really find anybody with similar experiences, but social media opens it up massively. So although there is a negative positivity and then there's the toxic positivity and all of that, I think there's definitely an aspect of social media that I found really helpful where I can learn and feel less alone by seeing people who've gone through similar things to what I've gone through, including kind of from celebrities and influencers being open, and just normal people who I've met through the kind of campaign work that have made me and helped me learn a lot more about myself.
I think that that's incredible. I wonder, Patty, is there any creators or influencers or some of those people that come to mind for you that people might be able to follow or, look up? Because I think I'm always in the market for that. If you have a few names that come to mind, I think that that might be really helpful. I know I'm putting you on the spot, so if not, no worries.
Yeah, I think an obvious one is Dr. Alex. He shares a lot of kind of personal experience, but also advice and that kind of thing. And also campaigns like Post Your Pill, the first day of the month, help to destigmatize what's going on and destigmatize mental health medication. And I found personally, because of my OCD, I found there's a few OCD accounts, OCD UK, OCD Action. And yeah, I like to fill my feed. I can't remember the specific names, but I like to fill my feed with these accounts so that when I am kind of scrolling or looking through, there's always that aspect of it's not just all kind of doom scrolling. There's these positive accounts sprinkled in. I also think it can be often more powerful on social media when it's not a specific mental health influencer who talks about their experiences. I know Alfie Watts, who won Race Across the World, he's been very open about different aspects. Roy Mitchell, these people aren't necessarily dedicated to mental health, but it makes it more powerful in a way to that these are quote unquote normal people who are mega successful but also struggle.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I do think, yeah, that aspect of relatability. And I think that is a positive of social media. I know that we've kind of touched on the double-edged sword a little bit, but at least being able to see people's stories and for them to be able to share that and have a little bit of solidarity, I think that although there are a lot of, downsides to the feed, and I think I'm a victim of doom scrolling all the time. I think that I always need to catch myself and kind of reorient. But I think that that can be really positive as well, that storytelling aspect and people sharing what they might be struggling with. So I think that that's a great point. So the next question is kind of this is the kicker. I think this is the hard part, but I'm super excited to talk with all of you who have been doing this work with FlippGen in particular. How can young people use digital spaces to drive change? We've talked about it a little bit, pros and cons to a lot of digital spaces. How can we use them productively and to not only use them in a positive way, but to actually drive change in both online settings, but also translate that change into offline settings? I think that's a big question, but does anybody want to kick us off?
I'm happy to start. I think we sometimes forget with the digital world how, even though we're kind of exposed to a lot of things that we can feel small, a lot of people on social media, you can have a lot of power just with your social media following of friends and family and people you know. You might only have 100, 200 followers, but if you imagine those people stood in a room in front of you, it suddenly kind of alters the perspective in your head. And just by sharing, even sharing a petition, the small things from sharing a petition, writing a letter to your MPs, these things can add up. But also if you kind of share your story or do bigger things, you can kind of join campaigns. It's an extremely powerful tool to use the digital world, which you can never have done kind of before the digital world kind of came to prominence. And yeah, you can connect with people from all over the country. So if there's something that you care about, there's definitely going to be people in the country who also care a lot about it. And whereas before digital platforms, there was no real ability for someone from Manchester to connect and campaign with somebody from London. Now that's been completely changed, and some of the most powerful campaigns and the most powerful change has come from people from all over the country who connect on social media and connect digitally online. And there's a whole new world of opportunities there where there just wasn't before. So I'd say if you want to create change, um, you know, social media and digital platforms, blogs, they're a great way. It's easy to get down and think that your voice isn't loud on social media, but if you imagine and translate those numbers that you see on the screen to people who stood in front of you, yeah, it could definitely change your perspective. And even if it's one person, one of the issues with social media and digital online spaces is you can't see the instant impact of what you're saying. But just know that if you're sharing your story and if you're being authentic and if you're kind of sharing the bad as well as the good, that will definitely have an effect on somebody the other side of the screen. You might not be able to see it. You probably won't be able to see it, but know from kind of my experience and know from your own experience of seeing that from other people that you really are making a difference.
I think that the imagery of thinking about how many people, if they were all in a room, is my favorite quote when it has to do with social media. Because I do think a lot of times you're so right. We think about the analytics and we think about the millions of followers that some people have, and we kind of get bogged down in that. But if you do think about the amount of people who get to see that content that you're putting out, it is so cool to think about them all in a room. And a lot of times, too, I think about that one person, like you said, if that sparks a conversation or if that sparks them to go check out more resources, then it becomes that ripple effect. So not only is it those people in the room, but then it's people that are pouring into the room because you've created, hopefully, a ripple effect of change. I love that. I think that is my favorite way to think of it, Patty. Troy, Miriam, what are you guys thinking? How can young people use digital spaces to drive change?
I think and exactly on what like Paddy said, like, and being part of this as well, I think really can connect young people together and listening to different experiences and really creating that change together and really knowing that actually we can make that difference if we talk, if we really can really be powerful in our voices to really showcase what we are aiming for. Participation groups and like different groups that like I do incredible things, working with different organisations can really help. Also, I'm podcasting as well, and that is powerful in itself. That can actually and get our different voices on together and can really create on storytelling that can really empower that voice. On blogs as well, and exactly what Paddy said, creating that story, creating that narrative, and creating that lived experience to really like and encourage like have a voice as well.
I love that. I think that that's so powerful, Troy. The storytelling platforms. I think you're so right. Miriam, what would your advice be to people, or how can young people use digital spaces to drive change?
Honestly, I think Patty has said it perfectly because that was the exact point I was going to make. But I think I've written about this a bit in a blog article as well. But there's just so many people that you might not first realize that would be also supporting you in your beliefs and what kind of change you want to bring into the world. The first thing that comes to mind is like the hot girl walk movement, where it's like all these people join together to go on a run, but it's for like charity as well. And I find that you will always find people that are like you, of the same cloth. There's always a community out there, and you should never be afraid to express yourself and stand up for what is true to you and not just what the algorithm or what the media says. Definitely you can find the kind of person that you are, and being online can definitely help with that, I think.
I love that. I think focusing on those positive aspects are the important part, the communities that you can build. I think also the learning that can come from social media sometimes and other digital spaces, if you use those tools for good and to kind of, progress yourself and make connections, I think that's huge. I love the hot girl walk example. I think that's a great one. I do think it's like that beautiful connection between online and offline and forming communities that you never probably would before. So I think that's incredible. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat in case we have any questions rolling in there. But that just gives me more time to ask a few questions. I think all of you probably come from different, of course, you've done different work in different social action spaces and, lobbying and doing, online activism and podcasting. And there's so many different ways that you've approached making change. What are some of the changes that you would like to see when it comes to the digital world in the next few years? I know that's kind of scary, but I'm thinking, 5, 10 years, maybe even closer, maybe a year or two, maybe more tangible short-term goals. But what are some of the changes that you would like to see? And I guess who are you directing those changes at as well? So is it tech companies? Is it governments? Is it us as consumers and as users? What are some of those thoughts that you guys have? Go for it, Patty.
Yeah, I have so much that I'd change. I think, as I said earlier, there is no way now to kind of I see it as like Pandora's box. We can't put it back in. But what we need to do is make it manageable and make it a much safer environment for all people, and especially young people, to be on. I think in terms of social media, I think there needs to be a higher accountability for social media companies. There is a statutory duty of care, but I don't think it goes far enough. The algorithms that are used, I think, should be published. I think it's easy to say algorithms, but when you think about what they're actually doing and the way they're such a big part of social media and how social media companies work, I think that they're so important that they should be put out to the public and should be kind of exposed and transparent on what it's doing, because it's affecting our brains and young people's brains. So I think it's important that social media companies are much more transparent, and that when there are breaches of the rules and there are things that social media companies do that has a negative impact on people, I think that the government has to hold them to account a lot more rigorously. And kind of on the chatbot and AI, I think one of the key changes that I'd like to see is a minimum age of 16 to use them. I think there are arguments for social media as well to have a minimum age, and to there are minimum ages, but to ensure that you check a lot of these chatbots. All you need to do is say that you're over 16 to be able to use them. If gambling companies and betting companies can ensure that their users are over the age of 18, then I think that chatbots should be able to. There's been lots of examples of AI telling children to do terrible things, and a lot of these young people aren't mature enough to think critically about it and follow what they say. So I think, yeah, a couple of points on that I think on the social media in terms of algorithms and a higher duty of care, and also minimum age that's rigorously enforced, would be a start to making the digital world a lot safer.
I think that was incredibly well put. I think there's so many changes there that you identified. Miriam, Troy, any to add? Any to agree with? I think there was lots there to unpack.
I think I completely agree with Patty. I think definitely reforming the ease of access that young people have towards harmful content. I think it's really easy for like kids to be online but not using the internet as smartly as they should. And I feel like there's been sort of recently now with how, how normal it is for kids to be on tablets and iPads, it's sort of become this new parenting thing where it's a sort of a parenting style now that like the tablet is a form of recreational activity, but what happens on it doesn't pertain to the actual parents. So I think if I could redirect it to like schools and having more classes about like smart use with phones in PSHE, for instance, I think that could really help young kids like navigate and try to like avoid or potentially harmful content for them while still ensuring that they use the phone like in a smart way, being able to use it for education, learning, and connecting.
I think that's so true, and I do think there's you know, a lot of different entities could support this, and I think you guys are identifying so many different ones. Troy, anything to add there?
I actually like I agree on what's been said really, yeah. I think like and definitely like a school need to be teaching about this, but also maybe like because maybe like youth clubs can do that as well. Maybe like a different like youth voice groups out there can really like and identify this issue and really make that change in a way, but also make maybe like petitions and campaigns to really and gather all of what young people are saying to really and go to the government and be like, this is what needs to happen. What are you going to do about it? And can we be in the seat of this table to really create that change together?
Just wanted to say there is a bill, I think something is brewing in Parliament on the 25th of July. They said that there's going to be most like pornographic sites will have to have verification, de-verification to make sure that young people are not like joining or seeing harmful content on there. So there's definitely some progress towards censorship and moderation regulation with inappropriate content online.
Yeah, sorry. If I think it's a good step forward in terms of that and some explicit. I think should just be a start, and age verification should come in across the board. I'm not saying it should all be 18 plus and under 18 shouldn't have smartphones, but I think that if you can do it for one kind of type of content, I think it's clear that it should be looked at for all different types of content, all different avenues, all different aspects of the digital world.
I think that was such a wonderful last comment, unless anybody wants to add anything, but I think that it ties really well into FlippGen's belief in no tech with a K, not no tech, because I think it's all about the way that we exist online and making sure that we do it in an ethical way, making sure that we're constantly educating ourselves about the risks. And I think, of course, that's young people as digital natives and people who are existing in this world. But I think it's also about the government supporting us. It's about tech companies. It's about the education system. It's about youth groups. It's about all these different entities that you touched on. I think that this has been really incredible. I want to give a moment to each of you. Please shout out your platforms, shout out your socials if you share content there. How can people find you? Because I think you've all shared some incredible insights here. So how can people follow up with this and continue the conversation with each of you? We'll start with Troy because you introed yourself first. Go for it, Troy.
Thank you. And you can find me on Instagram on @Troy and also on LinkedIn at Troy Jujabanga. Yeah, and also you can find me also of a donation and dot podcast on Instagram as well.
And of course, listen to your podcast. Absolutely. Definitely. All right. And then I think we had, let's see, Patty, you were next. I'll go in the intro order.
Yeah, thank you. I think I had to check. My Instagram is Paddy R. Crump, and on LinkedIn, it's Paddy Crump. It'd be great to connect with anybody who kind of cares about the topics we've discussed.
That's amazing. Thank you, Patty. And last but not least, again, Miriam, go for it.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I try and stay active on there as much as I can. But you can also find me on Instagram, CyanaT with triple Y. It's my art account. Hopefully we can have another account specifically for social change. We're getting there. But for now, my LinkedIn is my most active, Mariam El Gabri, the way that it's spelled on the podcast name.
That's incredible. I think everyone should definitely check your accounts out and follow along. I think that we definitely have to have more of these down the line. I think the FlippGen podcast will definitely be a platform for that. I think that this has just been amazing. And I do think that these conversations are ones that we need to continue having amongst ourselves and amongst all of those different networks that we talked about. Another good group of accounts to follow is FlippGen, of course. And you can also find the FlippGen website, FlippGen.com, and FlippGen on Instagram and LinkedIn. And that's FlippGen with 2 P's, just for everybody listening. And then Reach Out to All. Their website is reachout2all.co.uk, and Reach Out to All, and that's with a 2 on Instagram. And then Reach Out to All CIC on LinkedIn. Sorry, everybody, I'm just gonna ramble these out, and then you can find them. But then Be the Change Media Networks, BeTheChange.Media.com, and we're Be the Change Media Network on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. I just put Instagram and LinkedIn, although all of these different platforms or all these different organizations are on more platforms, but I think that's just the easiest to direct you to for now, and then you can find the other platforms from there. I do think you all have been amazing. I think that this conversation, just like I said, needs to continue. We need to have more of these. But Patty, Troy, Miriam, thank you so much for doing this with me. I think it's been incredible.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Thank you very
Of
much.
course. Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.